I'm Dr. Rudi Newman, a historian and author working with Hertfordshire's Library Service, and in this series we'll be revealing some of the important, obscure and sometimes unusual stories to be found in Hertfordshire's history. Berkhamstead has a long history, most notably through the ruins of its castle. Dating back over 900 years, within its history are two particular stories of importance, not just to Hertfordshire, but the nation as a whole. In 1066, following the Battle of Hastings, William of Normandy advanced north to take control of England. As with numerous other places, on reaching Berkhamstead, he ordered the construction of a fortification, placing his half-brother, Robert of Mortain, in charge of the project. The original structure, completed around 1070, was a motte and bailey castle, comprising a keep on an artificial defensive hill, or motte, and an enclosed courtyard, or bailey. It was originally built of timber, the primary function being for defensive purposes on key routes, hence the need for rapid construction. In the case of Berkhamstead, the settlement lies on a long but narrow valley, the road becoming important as a passage to the Midlands through the Chiltern Hills. The first key event, arguably the most important in Berkhamstead's history, occurred so early in the castle's development that there is even a question as to whether it had yet been built, or at least completed. Nonetheless, according to Anglo-Saxon chronicles, it was at Berkhamstead that the victorious William had a meeting with Saxon nobles and the Archbishop of York, taking the surrender of England. It was therefore here that witnessed the birth of the Norman age, the acknowledgement that gave him the name he is best remembered by, William the Conqueror. Moving forwards, the castle was confiscated by Henry I, after Robert's son rebelled, being given to his chancellor, Ranulf. This, however, was somewhat short-lived. Accounts vary, but in 1123 Ranulf and Henry travelled to Berkhamstead, and, so it is claimed, the sight of his castle coming into view elated the infirm Ranulf so much that he fell off his horse and died from his injuries. Under Henry II, from 1155, the castle was owned by another chancellor, the famous Thomas Becket. He extended and rebuilt it, believed to be the point where timber was replaced by stone. However, it was confiscated by Henry in 1164 after they fell out, their disagreement ultimately leading to Becket's assassination in 1170. Henry often stayed at Berkhamstead, officially recognising the settlement as a town. Over the following centuries, the castle saw many notable figures. It was besieged by the future Louis VIII of France in 1216, when leading rebels during the reign of King John. It became the primary residence of Edward the Black Prince, son of Edward III, and held John II of France as a prisoner. It even had a literary connection. While the residence of Henry IV, renovation work was overseen by one Geoffrey Chaucer, author of the Cnbrb Tales. By the time of Edward IV and the Wars of the Roses, the late 15th century, the castle was no longer a Plantagenet palace, instead occupied by Cecily Neville, the Duchess of York. With it becoming increasingly unfashionable, though, it was abandoned after her death in 1495. A ruin by the 16th century, robbed of stone for local buildings, it remains a peaceful aesthetic scene, owned by the Duchy of Cornwall until acquired by the government in the 1930s, and now maintained by English Heritage. Having been significant in Norman history, the second national impact of Berkhamstead Castle strangely only occurred centuries after it was ruined. As noted, the valley is narrow, so limiting options for easy, flat transport through it, such as the canal. The London and Birmingham Railway found the ideal route, but this entailed going straight through the castle, demolishing almost all of its ruins. Not only did the neighbouring Duke of Bridgewater want to protect his scenery, but there had been growing general concerns about the lack of protection for historic buildings and monuments. As a consequence, the 1833 Act for the railway's construction expressly protected the castle, forcing the railway to alter their route. And this protection may have been limited, the line instead being only a few yards away and destroying the castle's gatehouse, but it was still a key national precedent, the first British building to have legal protection for its historic merits. Berkhamstead Castle rightly holds a place in local history, but its national roles are of even greater importance. From the beginnings of Norman England to the origins of the listed buildings and the active legal protection of our national heritage, these key parts of Britain as we know it today owe a great deal to Berkhamstead and its once mighty castle. If you would like to know more, there is plenty available, and Hertfordshire libraries are a great place to start, with many online resources alongside material in your local library. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thanks for listening.